Welcome to the Everyone is a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell.
When I think of asses, woman's ass, something comes out of me.
with me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am over fucking well. What do you want for that, a junior G-Man badge?
And Josh Adams.
Who? Were you a fucking owl?
Sorry. Heat's our classic this week, and I don't know. I wanted to do like 15 of these, if not more. I almost changed all the Patreon ones, too, but that wasn't fair. But anyway, visit us at ihatecritics.net. We're also on Facebook. Our Twitter handle is CriticsPod. It's also our Instagram handle. There you can participate in our top fives, watch the trailers, read Sean's reviews, and interact with other listeners. There is also a Facebook group that's still called I Hate Critics that we never get on, unfortunately. And because of that, I missed some top fives last week. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
I did not know at all.
Our top fives last week were song titles, and Cousin Jeff, he had What's Love Got to Do With It, Purple Rain, Harper Valley PTA, 2 Dream Warriors, and then 9 to 5. And then Jason from New Mexico had Shining, Psycho, Vertigo, Iron Man, The Sting. And then Cousin Jeff said, is this only a Patreon thing now? And then Jason from New Mexico said, I think not reading everything is a good policy eventually. Hopefully they have enough listeners. And then he goes, but who cares about Jeff anyway?
Warring Patreon supporters.
And Jeff said, clearly nobody.
Oh, wow.
And then Jason said, they skip mine too. Man, I really hate critics. But then also I skipped a Patreon supporter as well. Charlie Messing. It was a rough week for me. We did a bunch of prepping beforehand. I totally forgot about the important stuff. But I would like to catch up there. We will get you your audio later because I'm in the process of moving and time's not the luxury I have right now. But for now, I want to thank Charlie Messing, our key grip. I almost tried to find the one you actually did that on, but I don't know where it's at. What am I forgetting? iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is the best place to listen to the podcast if you have an Apple device, and if not, Google Play or your other podcatchers. But if you could go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes and subscribe to the show and rate and review the show, we will read the review on the air. And currently we're at number 5. We were 3 last week. There is a podcast on there with like nothing but bad reviews. Like that's number 4. It's awful. I kind of feel bad for them. I won't name their name, but I don't know. I just noticed that today when I was looking for new reviews that we don't have.
And, you know, if you're getting bad reviews but people are still listening, I guess that's working out for you somehow.
The algorithm is weird. I don't know how it works.
Or it's the room of podcasts. So bad it's good.
Josh continuing his war with every other podcast that isn't us.
Well, I did wear an Ivy Envy shirt this past weekend, so kudos to them.
And they're going to come back up in a little bit as well. I do want to mention Patreon, ihatecritics.net/Patreon. It's the best way to help support the podcast. You can give as little as $1 a month to as much as you want. And it'll help us grow and invest back into the show and make it bigger and better for all of you. News this week, I guess we'll start with trailers. I don't know if we have any news. I personally don't. I'm sure there is. But for trailers, we'll start with Super Troopers 2. Were either one of you Super Trooper fans?
No, because my brother is a Super Troopers fan, and just the most annoying kind of Super Troopers fan who can quote the movie, and I don't understand why he quotes it. They're never funny. They're never in proper context, but he quotes it anyway.
I'm sorry, finish.
My brother.
Your brother, okay. This is Broken Lizard, right?
Yeah.
The comedy group. They've never made me laugh a single time. And Beer Fest, help me out here. Anything else that they've done? Club Dread. No laughing at all. And I know that they're supposed to be a comedy group that creates stories like this. And yes, there's a cult behind Super Troopers, so much that this past week someone at work said, if I gave you Super Troopers to watch, would you watch it? And I said, I have so many movies to watch. Which is true. I mean, I'm behind on everything, of course, in terms of personal choices and for the show. But would I put Super Troopers at the bottom of a list of 10 movies that I was forced to watch? Yes.
Unless it was a classic.
Okay, I see that you're lining this up.
I have no idea if this is coming to the theaters or not. I'm a casual fan. I don't love it, but it made me laugh enough. And I have for me in comedy, some things make people laugh, some things don't. It's hard for me to say that's not funny because, as a matter of fact, I don't like to do that.
Yeah, luckily this show has existed to show me that and help me grow as a person a little bit, because I would say, no, that's just not funny. And then between the two of you, hearing both of your thoughts on comedy, I'm like, well, why is it that so many people like this and I don't? Okay, comedy is subjective.
He's going to do the same thing to Heat later on. But basically, to me, the trailer was kind of in the same vein as the first one. It looks like I don't think it can be any worse. It'll just kind of be the same thing based on the trailer. So, And a couple of the guys are coming to the Quad Cities. Maybe we can get an interview. We should jump at that.
Absolutely.
Oh, now you're interested.
Look, I'm up for pimping our show, not up for pimping the movie.
The trailer kind of reminded me a little bit of Canadian Bacon, the Michael Moore directed movie. I'm guessing is better than this. I liked Canadian Bacon a lot. That's a really funny movie.
I watched was it the first half of Canadian Bacon, and it was so funny. I watched half of Canadian Bacon and half of Strange Brew within 24 hours, and I was like, this is fantastic. I need to finish both of them at some point, but those are right up my alley.
Whenever you get a pizza, do you get half Canadian Bacon?
It's ham, Bob. It's ham. No, but I get...
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No one cares.
It doesn't. Shut up, Josh.
And then there's this Corey from IVM. He said, have you heard of the movie Becks? I'm like, no. So he sent me the trailer. Apparently, there's another Cubs podcast that kind of piggybacks off IVM sometime. I don't know, like Sun Rantowers. I don't remember the name of the podcast. But the main guy's sister, it's about her life or something like that. It's got like real actresses and actors in it. And she did all the music for the movie. I'm trying to think of the lead actress in the movie. I should have had that pulled up right now, but I thought the trailer looked fine.
I thought it was a really great trailer, honestly. Really, really interested in the story, really interested in her. It made me laugh. Really engaged me. I'm in it. I'm in for it.
If I had watched it, I could give you a real opinion, but just looking at the cast, I see a lot of recognizable faces, of course, and the basis for the film, the synopsis, sounds like right up my alley, but I'm also thinking more right up Netflix's alley or Amazon Prime.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it's a theatrical release at all. Although, I mean, if it is somewhat local, then we might be able to do something with it later on down the road. But it looked better. It was not a Cadaver Christmas or anything that small. It's got real actors in it. So I'm kind of interested. It looks pretty cool. And then, don't worry, he won't get far on foot. I look pretty good.
I liked this trailer before I started reading reviews of the movie, which is apparently playing at Sundance and kind of getting mixed reviews. Joaquin Phoenix, Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill looks different. I haven't seen him in a while. Good cast. I like the idea of Jack Black too in this movie. That sounds cool. But yeah, I've read some not negative reviews, not like this is terrible, but like just it's not nearly as good as it should be based off of that cast and
Gus Van Sant.
Yeah.
Gus Van Sant has not been in my mind since Good Will Hunting. I don't think I've seen anything, and that's including Milk, which is on that list of his directed films. Have I missed a lot since then, other than Milk?
Milk. He seems to take his time between movies.
Yeah. There's a meme going around about Jerry that's always been going around for a while about how nothing happens in that movie. It's just Matt Damon and Casey Affleck walking across a desert.
Not even sure what movie you're talking.
I don't know either.
On the internet, people like to reference Jerry as the worst movie ever made.
The hell is Jerry? Was it young Matt Damon and Casey Affleck?
It wasn't long after. It was like maybe 10, 15, it's about 10, 12 years after Good Will Hunting.
Oh, that far after?
Yeah,
wow. So they knew better then.
It's literally just them walking in the desert for a solid over 2 hours.
Do they talk?
They do. A little bit, not much.
I mean, those two talking to each other is appealing to me, but if they're not talking much or saying anything interesting.
As a concept, you'd really have to hit that out of the park.
Imagine an even more boring Lord of the Rings.
Hey, hold on. Eventually.
Just kidding.
I know how you feel about it. You're okay. But we're going to have to bring this to the show at some point. We didn't really talk about any of the Lord of the Rings movies when the Hobbit movies came out.
Bob, have you seen all the Lord of the Rings movies?
I got halfway through the last one, but yeah, otherwise.
Oh, the best one. Oh, okay. So you missed the best part of all three movies? Okay.
I don't know how it ends. How it should have ended in the first 5 minutes of the first one. Sorry.
Are you going to the Eagle theory right away?
I only know about that theory because of the internet.
There's no way that doesn't become an awesome show, though. Listening to Bob simplify Lord of the Rings for everyone, and
Kevin Smith already did it better than I ever could.
Okay,
and I would just repeat what he said. All right. Any news that you guys want to talk about, or should we get to the movies?
Actually, as we're talking, the SAG Awards are going on. And last night, Shape of Water moved back out in front for Best Picture with a win at the Producers Guild. That was a pretty big moment for that film. So it's right now, based off of just who's winning right now, it's between Three Billboards and Shape of Water for the Best Picture frontrunner.
Seems kind of weird to me. Whatever. I mean, Shape of Water I get. Three Billboards, I like it, but just not on that level. I don't know.
There seems to be just a kind of a weird coalescing around those two movies for some reason.
12 Strong.
12 Strong, yes. This is a true story that was actually classified for over a decade. It's about Army Special Forces that went into Afghanistan just over a month after September 11th. They were sent in to battle the Taliban and the early form of al-Qaeda, and they did so on horseback. So they're called the horse soldiers. They had to go across the roughest terrain imaginable in Afghanistan on horses to try and get to the Taliban and try and take this one stronghold. And in doing that, they would give the U.S. kind of a base where they could actually set up in Afghanistan and really do some business. Really terrific action in this movie. And this is surprising because this is a first-time director. This guy's never directed a feature film before, and he does an incredible job for a first-time guy. The action is spectacular. The characterization is weak because this is not a movie. There's a lot of characters, a lot of moving parts. Obviously, Chris Hemsworth is out front, and he does have a pretty good arc, but there's not a lot of time for the rest of the cast to become anything more than just bearded, dirty guys. But that said, I mean, that's a minor flaw for me. There's also this stuff about the people waiting back at home and those cliches about you've got to come home to me, or I'm withholding sex until you come home, and all this kind of stuff. Or the kid is upset about dad's going away and all that stuff. That's cliche stuff that they put in all of these movies. And this movie could have done without it at 2 hours and 20 minminutes. But that said, I mean, the rest of the movie is really great. The interaction between Chris Hemsworth and the guy, I wish I had his name in my head, the guy who's the head of the version of the Northern Alliance that he's fighting alongside, because there are 3 different Northern Alliances at the time, each of them as ready to fight each other as they were ready to fight al-Qaeda and the Taliban. So Hemsworth character is the captain. He's got to try and he's being a soldier and a leader, but he's also trying to be a diplomat, trying to keep this guy in line because this guy is ready to fight just about anybody, so he can be in charge of all of Afghanistan. And to that point, he is the guy who was fighting alongside is now the vice president of Afghanistan. This is like I said, a true story. This really happened. These guys really did go into Afghanistan on horses and dealt al-Qaeda the worst defeat that they suffered. in their existence at that time.
Did you see it, Josh?
No, I didn't get to the theater this weekend, unfortunately, but I was concerned about this movie because once you see a trailer that has, it says Jerry Bruckheimer on there and a first-time director, and William Fichtner, even in the trailer, does something to me because he likes to play in Bruckheimer-type roles that I concerned myself that this was Lone Survivor-esque in that it was going to be more along the lines of propaganda than something that we should take seriously as a piece of cinematic history. And your review is promising because that tells me that's not the direction that they went in. And because I like Chris Hemsworth so much, I would definitely be more interested now in seeing it than before relying on the trailer.
This reminded me a lot of that Benghazi movie, which I thought was a pretty terrific film.
Michael Bay's best film.
Yeah, no doubt for me. And this has got a lot of the similar elements, and it's surprisingly not jingoistic. It's not a lot of dick measuring. It's not a lot of macho posturing. It's actually, these are pretty good characters. They're just really great soldiers, and that's what you come away with. And even Michael Pena is not even playing the Michael Pena role. He's playing an actual badass version of a Michael Pena character, which is nice.
No, that Michael Bay movie, though, wasn't that kind of a step down from like the Black Hawk Downs and the Platoons?
Absolutely. I think what the expectation was
right,
that it's going to be slow-moving images of propaganda and a flag billowing over the screen, which did happen at some point. But
but this is more on that level. Maybe the wall's kind of on that level, but it's not like gonna stick around.
It's not like Full Metal Jacket. I don't think we're still too close to Afghanistan for anybody to make a truly great Afghanistan or Iraq movie, for that matter.
Fair enough. That would have been the movie I would have gone to see had I not been moving. But
this is not like Three Kings. This is not,
right. So, but it's good to see that it was good, though.
It's interesting about the modern war movies. The great directors tend to avoid making them, it would seem.
Why?
I don't know. But yet, you look at all the most modern war movies. I mean, Lyman may be the best director who's tackled the thing, and he really didn't even tackle it. He just kind of made a very interesting movie that happened to be set in Iraq.
Right.
Kimberly Pierce is a great director, but Stop Loss was not a particularly great movie. And it was more of a studio project than it was hers. But other than those two, I mean, I can't really... The great directors just aren't making Iraq or Afghanistan movies.
What's her name? Catherine Bigelow? She's
Zero Dark 30.
She's kind of the one that's done it.
I would say, yeah, she's probably the best one who's done it.
Forever My Girl. Not Catherine Bigelow, I'm talking about the movie.
And not the Paula Abdul biopic.
That's Forever
is
Your
it?
Girl. This is My Girl.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
You shouldn't be upset for knowing that. He should be upset for knowing that.
Well, he's worked in radio. I'm just like the casual Paula Abdul create her own greatest hits by myself guy.
What really disappointed me, this is not a movie that is like dedicated fan fiction to the movie My Girl, which I was hoping this would be. Forever My Girl. Never mind.
Okay, I'm following.
We had to wait till you're done, though.
Forever My Girl is awful. This is the worst movie I've seen so far this year, which is, it's January. You always see a lot of bad movies in January, but this is worse than The Commuter. It's worse than Proud Mary. It's a country music-based romance. It stars a guy named Rowe, is his last, Aaron Rowe? It's something Rowe.
Alex Rowe.
Alex Rowe, thank you. Who can sing, I guess, kind of in that way that a lot of guys in country music can sing, but don't really stand out. There's a lot of really country songs that, again, they're fine country songs. They're not exactly great songs on their own. They're mediocre and down the middle and very easy to listen to and very easy to forget immediately.
But is the singer hot? That's really all that really matters when it comes to country music anymore.
I guess he's a good-looking dude. I don't know. Jessica Roth is in this, which really disappointed me because she's so great. I love Jessica Roth. She was the star of Happy Death Day, and she was fantastic in that movie. And here she's dialed down to his level. She's got to try and act down to the material and act down to him. And that's really unfortunate. She gets dragged into this mess of a movie and doesn't get to shine because I really do think she's a movie star, just not in this thing. But basically, this guy is a country music star. He walked out on his wedding day 7 years ago, because of reasons we never actually learn. 7 years later, he comes back when one of his friends is killed, and he's a big, huge country star. He was a little bit of a country star then. Now he's a huge star. And he comes back and reconnects with the girl, finds out that she was actually pregnant before he left, and so that's his daughter that's now 7 years old, and tries to reconnect with her and reconnect with his dad, who's the local preacher, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Will he go back out on tour and miss the little girl's talent show? Will he make it back in time? I don't know. What do you think?
Wake me up when you're done.
I'm more interested in the fact that this guy is a dead ringer for Henry Cavill. I'm looking at his page, and this guy looks exactly like a less workout regimented Henry Cavill. He's also English, so an English guy that's pretending to be a country star is a new thing.
Of Henry Cavill or the CGI lipped Henry Cavill? Maybe that would be
real Henry Cavill, not Justice League Henry Cavill. Uncanny Valley Cavill.
I would say same level of charisma for sure. Same level of charisma between the two.
Oh no, that's terrible. But you're probably right.
Henry Cavill and Alex Rowe are both guys where charisma goes to die.
It was funny. I was listening to a non-movie podcast where they were going through like the best movies of the year or something. I don't even know what they were doing, but it was Chris Jericho and Kerry King from Slayer, and they said, one, the funniest movie of all time is Hot Tub Time Machine 2. Not 1, 2. But then they were talking about Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, hating on Ben Affleck, but thought Henry Cavill was amazing as Superman. I was just like, Sean would love this podcast.
It's so sad to know that me and Chris Jericho would not be friends at all.
It was more the guy from Slayer, so you got that going for you.
Like I hated Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which he loves, and
That's right. That was the movie he was thankful for most.
Yeah.
I don't think he listened to the question, but that's okay. He'll never know, though.
Forever My Girl is awful. Don't see it.
What about Den of Thieves?
Den of Thieves. This is the movie I actually thought would be the worst one this weekend. So because it has my nemesis, Gerard Butler, in it, whom I hate. Den of Thieves is it's basically Heat. Heat maybe with more of a giant penis complex.
Go on.
But Gerard Butler plays Big Nick. He's a detective, and guess what? He doesn't play by the rules. I don't arrest people. We just kill you. Oh, good. Yeah, you're a real cop. He's a leader of an elite Los Angeles Sheriff's Department group that's investigating this high-level bank robbery group led by Pablo Schreiber, and they've also got 50 Cent and O'Shea Jackson, who's really way better than this material. He's Ice Cube's kid, and he's really great. I like him a lot, and he makes this movie much better, but he also gets let down by a really dumbass ending, like a really, really dumbass ending. I'll just, spoiler alert, this movie wishes it was Heat plus Usual Suspects. That's what this movie wants to be. And there's like this really kind of cool movie happening that we don't get to see, apparently, because we get to the end and we find out that was happening the whole time? Why couldn't we have been watching that? That's so much more interesting. So that's happening in the background that we don't get to see. Meanwhile, we're stuck with Gerard Butler just being kind of fat and burping and eating donuts the whole time and just really just being irritating.
Is it possible?
He's not bad. He's not like Gods of Egypt bad or London Has Fallen bad. He's awake. He's alert. Seems to be trying, which is new for him. So there's that.
Now, the side story or the better story that we didn't see, would that have been more expensive to make? I mean, it makes me think of the Kevin Smith Star Wars movie where you have two guys talking while something's going on the side, and they're just describing. Is that what this was? Or would they just wanted a twist?
It was just, it's The Usual Suspects is happening in the background, and we're watching Heat.
Heat's more fun than Usual Suspects, though.
There's a lot of people shooting at each other. Shooting, very big guns. They get a lot of innocent people killed in this movie for no good reason. Just the freeway is stopped, and the bad guys are like 15 cars ahead. And, maybe the best thing in this situation would be to let's all just continue to follow them and get to a place where there aren't people to kill. But instead, they get out of the car with their giant guns, they start shooting, both sides start shooting, innocent people are dying everywhere.
This is going to sound real familiar here in just a bit.
But at least in Heat, they waited until they started shooting first, the bad guys.
We'll get there.
Yes, the cops shoot first in this one.
Is Gerard Butler as good as Al Pacino?
Probably not.
Oh, no.
Just kidding.
That's not true.
No, he's Gerard Butler. I mean, maybe he's about righteous kill Jack and Jill Al Pacino. That would be where he is.
I didn't mind Jack and Jill Al Pacino.
Fuck you, Bob.
Anything else on Den of Thieves before we move on?
I mean, I wouldn't work too hard to talk you out of seeing it if you were going to watch it for free, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Fair enough.
Got top 5 worst?
Oh, yeah. Because we were going to do top 5 Native American
Which we all did,
themed
even
films. We're going to move that to next week. And Sean is going to do a top 5 worst Gerard Butler movies, and Josh will chime in if he has some more to add.
I do.
I mean, where do you even begin with the oeuvre of Gerard Butler? Because he is so very terrible.
He must make money, though.
I guess. I can't figure out why anybody continues to hire him. It is an absolute mystery to me because he just makes just utter garbage movies. I mean,
he's no longer the guy from 300. I mean, he's become Gerard Butler. So it's...
But he's the... If you can't afford the
Russell
guy
Crowe.
that's really great and is buff, then you have to go for Gerard Butler, who's buff, because he can fake a lot of accents. It's like he's a Scotsman,
really,
right?
can? He doesn't do it very
Okay,
well.
of course.
I think what
That's why you
Josh
can't
is
really
saying-
tell.
Us as viewers are stupid, and we don't know the difference between a Scottish accent and an Australian
Right,
accent.
and we discussed this before where Good Steve got on us because Gerard Butler was a fellow Scot, if I'm not mistaken, and we were like, is he Australian? Is he English? Crap, I don't know, and we're sitting here pigeonholing his entire
I just always thought he was a
background.
poor man's Russell Crowe.
Okay, that's a good comparison right there. When
Except
you
for
can't
he's not
afford
Scottish.
Russell Crowe, you're going to hire Gerard Butler.
I mean, run down this. He was in movie 43, of course, which is a legendary part of this show. Obviously, I hate both Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen. He was in Playing for Keeps, which is absolutely brutal. God, just looking at the Bounty Hunter with Jennifer Aniston. Oh, God, that movie sucked. Oh, what a piece of shit.
Did he do a Katherine Heigl movie, too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Ugly Truth. Oh, God. Nim's Island. Oh, fuck me. P.S. I love you. Jesus
Oh, that's
Christ.
that's bad.
Oh, it's so terrible. It's just all bad. I mean, oh.
What's the best thing he's done? 300?
How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay,
just
what's
his
the
voice.
best thing he's done that he's in that's not just a voice?
Tomb Raider?
Ooh, that's rough.
Oh, Law-Abiding Citizen. Man, that
Okay,
movie sucked.
I would go for Law Abiding Citizen
I
being the
hate that
best
movie.
thing that he's done, even though it's not.
I mean,
great.
I think most people would say 300. We're just not a big fan of it on the show.
it's one of my worst of his. I mean,
I hate 300, too.
I hate 300,
But it's got to be better than a lot of the movies you just named.
it's number 3 out of my 5.
He was in Mrs. Brown. That's a good movie with Judi Dench. That's about the best thing I can say. I don't know how much of it he was in, but
And
he
I
was in
didn't.
it.
You had to see Geostorm.
Oh, Geostorm.
So
Don't remind me.
There's that.
Chasing Mavericks. Oh,
That
my
one
God,
I've seen,
that
and that
sucks.
is really terrible.
Wow.
So rather than a top 5, we're just going to read his filmography.
Machine Gun Preacher. Oh, what
I
a
like
piece
that
of
movie.
garbage.
There's Bob's favorite Gerard Butler movie. I'm thinking
I've
of
only
a.
seen 3 of them.
When I said he's the guy that you get when you can't afford like Russell Crowe, there's a movie that was only available on like VOD, Coriolanus or whatever, and it had the makings of something that was like, ooh, I should see this.
And he ruined
that was it bored me to tears, and he's a main part of that movie. And that would have been my number 5, Reign of Fire, the dragon movie that should be awesome because it has Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey and dragons. How can you go wrong with that? And it's utter garbage.
It kind of sounded like garbage as you described it just.
And it is! Surprise! Timeline, though, is my worst film of his. Now, this is the Michael Crichton adaptation with, I think, Paul Walker and a bunch of people.
That?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
that
in
movie is garbage.
It is the worst film of his that I've seen. Now, he's not in it very much, but he is in it, and that is a piece of... it's horseshit. That's like, and it's directed by Richard Donner, if I'm not mistaken.
Brutal.
So
he was also the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, and he can't sing. They hired a guy who can't sing to play the fucking Phantom.
And
not that I care about Phantom of the Opera, but he has to. It's a fucking musical. Hire a guy who can sing.
Across from Emmy Rossum, who can.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
We've been talking about it the whole episode, but Heat's our classic.
Yes. What year was this?
95.
95. Michael Mann. I don't get the Michael Mann thing. I don't get the people who are obsessed with Michael Mann. I don't think Michael Mann is a great director. I think he's directed far worse movies. I tried to do, actually, a Michael Mann top 5 for an article this week, and I came up with 4 movies of his that I actually really like. And I couldn't think of... Like, I would have had to put Heat. I probably put a Heat on my list, honestly.
Easily.
Just because it probably would have been number 5. But, like, Collateral's a great movie.
Insider's good.
Insider's a good movie, but...
I like Manhunter. I know Josh did.
Manhunter, I'm with you on Manhunter.
I love Miami Vice. Failed miserably.
I hate Miami Vice.
Defend it on this show.
I don't care for Miami Vice at all. Ali's bad. Black Hat is one of the worst movies of this young century. Really, really awful movie. So I don't get the Michael Mann thing. I really don't understand why people consider him one of the great directors. He's just not to me. And with that, I think Heat is kind of overblown. And part of it, for me, is the perception of it. I've got a problem with the way people see it. Like Heat is one of those movies that always ends up on those lists, like the movies every man's got to see. Fuck you. Shut up. Learn to be a man by watching Heat. Shut up. Stupid. No. So that's part of my resentment for it. Mostly, though, I got a major problem with the De Niro character in this movie. De Niro's the bad guy. He's the guy who's robbing banks, and Pacino's the cop trying to catch him. And he sets up the whole thing sets up on De Niro's character and his code. You got to be willing to walk away from everything in a moment's notice. What does he not do? What does he not do in the end? He never walks away from fucking anything. The girl, he's got to go back and get revenge against the guy, even though he knows the cops are waiting there. And again, the plot hole with John Voight. Why does John Voight even tell him that the guy is there? His buddy's about to get away and take all this money and actually get everything he wants. He didn't have to tell him where he was. He didn't have to say a fucking word, but he does.
Well, there's a liner before he says it. You asked, so I have to tell you.
No.
They protected that.
No. That is a weak excuse.
He does walk away from the girl. I mean, but I guess I would say my biggest problem with it, which I don't really find a problem, is that I kind of feel like you're rooting for De Niro's character the whole time. And there's no reason to other than he's cooler than Al Pacino's character.
Well, that's another part of it, though, is like for him to sell the idea that he's going to violate this code that he has, he should have an arc that shows him breaking away from his own code. And there is no arc. His performance never changes. He's the same guy all the time. He's always cool. He's always calm. He's always collected. So there's no arc to him making decisions that go against his code.
I'd argue he didn't break the code, but that I know what you're saying with the revenge, but I guess I don't consider that part of the code. Anyway, Josh, you look like you have.
Well, I saw it as like two halves of a pie. Okay, you've got the good and the bad, and the movie is a complicated movie in that there's a lot of characters, a lot of situations. You wonder how they're going to mix together. And you start to realize, well, these people aren't just cookie cutters, okay? In my opinion, they've all got reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. I had a very interesting conversation about why Diane Venora's character would do the things that she would do in the first part of the movie. And I've always disliked that character because she's playing what I've deemed the woman that ruins everything in a movie, because she just has unreasonable expectations. And if they're expectations that we were meant to understand, it's off screen.
But there's another thing about Michael Mann is that he doesn't do female characters well. He never has. In any of his movies, he does not do female characters well.
I spent some time stating last night how I thought that he did female characters well. And so therefore, I don't know about that one. Amy Brenneman, in a way, gets to stand up for herself a little bit and sit there and say, like, well, okay, really? Like, I'm making a choice to go with this guy. After everything that I know now, I'm making a choice to go with him. He's letting me go. I'm still doing it. And then that sets up her heartbreak just that much more. But I have to get back to the first point of the thing, is that you've got a yin and a yang. Okay, Al Pacino is one thing. He's the force pulling in one direction. De Niro's the force pulling in another direction. And there's no way in 1995 that you can't not have Al Pacino and Robert De Niro going against each other in this movie. And for me, that works so well. The cat and mouse game that I think, because we've seen it a lot of times since then, we don't appreciate this movie as much. After all, we praise The Dark Knight for all that it is, and we know that Christopher Nolan took a lot of The Dark Knight from Heat. He's actually said it. And I kept seeing little pieces of The Dark Knight everywhere, including in the score, in Elliot Goldenthal's score. In between scenes, there's the little... and it holds you. And I've talked about this before with Nolan's Dunkirk, where the music just wouldn't stop. Okay, and I was exhausted at the end of the movie as a result. But what it does was kept your feeling on a specific plane the entire time as I'm watching the film. This is almost 3 hours long, and not at any point am I thinking, this is a 3 hour long movie, I can't wait till it's over. I want more of Heat. First time I saw it was in 1995, a 2-taper, the first 2-taper that I had ever rented before. It's a big deal when, you're only 16 and you're renting this, and I only was able to because it was at work and all that good stuff. You take it home, you watch it, and I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. I feel like an adult now. Then I watch it again as a young adult. I'm like, this really is cool. I love this. But I'm more into like the back and forth battles type stuff. And watching it now, I'm thinking, this is a morality play, okay? Al Pacino is not perfect. He's the guy that can't live a regular life because he's like a sociopath in a way. He's just chasing after something, and he doesn't know what he's going to do when he gets it. But, okay, and then you've got De Niro, who's the opposite end of that coin. There has to be a showdown, and who is going to get the better of one another? What happens is that De Niro does go against his code, okay? He's supposed to follow his plan to a T. He's got it, and then he lets his code fail on him, and that costs him everything. And then good, in theory, ends up winning. I'm saying good in air quotes, of course, because the cops open... Val Kilmer's the one that shoots first. Why in the hell are they going after these guys in the middle of a crowded street, in the middle of crowded markets, firing automatic rifles into everybody? And I just kept thinking to myself, well, this really isn't helping my thought in the back of my head that a lot of officers can't wait to measure their dicks against the criminals because they're just opening fire everywhere.
Like, this has actually happened, though.
Yes. And this story is based off of a real life situation, as I understand. I read a very brief synopsis that Michael Mann wrote it because of a Chicago criminal and cop that were going against each other.
That's another thing that made this movie that much harder for me to enjoy, is that I've heard the Dollop do the Norco shootout, and that is so much more interesting and entertaining than anything about Heat.
That's the thing, though. Okay, I put Heat on the first big sound system that I had, and what was the first thing that I put in? It was Heat, because I wanted that street scene to be firing on all cylinders behind me and to the side. And for me, it's interesting because I'm like, where is that coming from? I don't know. But it was so visceral. It felt like I was on that street. The sound design of this movie is really incredible. The production design is really incredible too. The lighting is really great. Everyone too looks like they're really warm. I mean, they're in Los Angeles, so they're going to have nice tans, presumably, but everyone just seems to have like a tension about them, and so it just amps the whole movie up for me. I didn't have a boring moment about this, and I don't know if that means that it falls into the category of a film that I just love to watch because it's an adult film, similar to the way I felt about Miami Vice and whenever I go see like a Mission Impossible movie in a way, or a Jason Bourne movie. But it kind of might be that, but this is like the best of those for me. I'm cool with that, saying that.
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of action movies, I guess for me the disappointment is you've got these two greatest actors of all time going head to head, at the time at least, and then
A little past their prime, but yeah.
barely though, and it doesn't hold up to Goodfellas and Taxi Driver and Godfather, and maybe it does to Josh, but to everybody else in the world it doesn't, and that's the only real. It's just an action movie. Is my only real negative thing to say. But as an action movie, I'll hold it up against any other action movies. I had a ton of fun with this. It was like watching Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. It was. I mean, you pretty much have the same guy going head to head, who neither one care about anything other than what they're doing. They're just one's on the right side of the law, one's on the other side, but they're more interested in the game.
Yeah.
And
Pacino is like Scent of a Woman is him on like cocaine, you know. He's on overdrive the entire time. This one is you see seeds of that because, as you've stated, Bob, every line in this movie could be a soundbite. It's true, but I loved every one of them for comedy reasons or for power of character reasons.
Are
He's
you
sitting
laughing
there
with him or at him?
with him.
No, I'm totally laughing with him because
Because
he's
he
basically beating down all these little criminals. You know,
He goes
I like
into
that.
that shouty Pacino thing where he'll start with a normal timbre and then just go crazy.
But
And it's because I'm acting now.
But he's trying to be entertaining and funny.
Right.
I mean, that whole great ass thing he just made up on the spot. There's no way you do that on accident without trying to be funny.
It's so great. I had forgotten about that line too. It just came up and I'm like, a great ass. Nobody else. He's unique. Like nobody does that. So even if you don't like him turned up to 11, it's still nobody does Pacino. So I'll take that.
And I think because he's done that in every movie since, probably a little bit before as well. But no one, Michael Mann did a good job of making it work. I guess I don't know. Maybe it was De Niro. I don't really know what it was that made it work in Heat, not Righteous Kill or anything else he's done. But it just maybe he got to ad-lib everything.
I don't think this is a bad movie by any stretch. I think it's a fine movie. It's fine. It's good. It's not a classic. It's not an all-time great movie. It's just and Michael Mann is not an all-time great director. That's the main thing that I come away from this with. This is a good movie. You know, it's good.
When we judge the criteria of Undisputed Classic, we often compare what critics have thought of it over time, what kind of awards that it's won, versus what an audience has generally thought of it. And Heat, regardless of your role as a fan of films, as a critic, you have what I consider a typical opinion of Heat. Many people feel the same way as you do. Amongst fans, however, this is a classic. I always felt that it was. I felt like, why would this never get any Academy love? And there's so much going on here that it's like bread for the Academy almost. And it seems like it earned it too. I don't know. There's certain things that you could say like that's trumped up for an Oscar speech or something like that. At the same time, I look at 95. I went over the Best Picture nominees. I'm like, okay, Braveheart. I'm cool with Braveheart being the Best Picture winner.
I'm not, but okay.
we remember. Sense and Sensibility. I love this more than Sense and Sensibility, but I do like that. I haven't seen Il Postino, and I can't remember the others. But it didn't matter because this is better.
I don't know that maybe I'd have to see all the other movies at 95, but in terms of if you just look at all the Academy Award movies, I wouldn't put it on that level, but at the same time, I'd put it on Departed's level, and I think that was kind of only given to them because of Scorsese never having won. I would put The Dark Knight, Departed. It's just that kind of fun action movie that's a little bit more grown up than Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
You're categorizing it really well for me because I brought up all of those films when I was talking about films that make me feel like an adult, by having seen them. Lethal Weapon, Die Hard were on that list. Miami Vice is on that list. And then Heat is on that list. And I'm like, it's a little bit above those because those are they've got a little comedy involved too. And it's more of like a standard action film that's pop culture based. And this is it's got some pedigree for some reason. And Michael Mann hasn't always made great choices. He doesn't edit his films really, really well. Ali is the worst example of that, where that just goes on and on and on and on and on. But then when he gets it right, like this and The Insider, yeah, those are Collateral. Those are 3 great films. So, yeah, to me, he's a great director when he's focused and has the ability to. And he's got a great story, too.
I won't go into the holes in the plot again, but I feel like with those holes put that below, for me, like The Dark Knight or...
Well, there's holes in The Dark Knight that we pointed out big time. And I think even Josh
they're less than this, for sure.
They would have blown up the boat.
And
anyway, I'm sorry.
that this one ranks below The Departed, too. I think The Departed is it's more colorful, more lively, and far better directed.
It's also, I can't stop talking about it because I loved it so much last night, but it's nice to see Val Kilmer act for a change because he hasn't done a lot of that over time. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Spartan, this, and then it's like, where did Val Kilmer go? Like, he was in Real Genius in 1985 or whatever. Top Secret. What's that?
He was in MacGruber.
Okay. I'm going to give you that because I enjoyed that movie very much.
He is in The Snowman. That's poor guy. It wasn't his fault, though.
If you are coming to Heat for the first time, I would ask you to focus on the last 2 minutes of the movie, and the music kind of rises up, and it just ends differently than a lot of action films and crime films that are like it. There's like a sense of knowing that, yes, you're dying, you're dead, I defeated you, but I respect you, man. Yeah.
You killed multiple cops and many innocent people, but good game, buddy.
But so did...
Let me hold your hand while you die.
But they built his character up to make that believe. I mean, he's kind of a sociopath, like Josh said. Both of them are the same guy, just on different sides of the law.
Yep.
So I as cheesy as it is, I still... It works. I don't think that's
I'm glad that you're bringing me down because you're right.
Perhaps the biggest mistake this movie makes for me is Al Pacino having sex the first time we see him on screen. That is not a good look. I did not need to see that. I did not need to see him making out. That was not pretty.
Oh, it was aggressive. It was powerful.
He looked like he was trying to suck her face off.
Get over here and give me your face.
I used to literally watch this movie every day in the summertime.
Really? That's awesome.
Oh, my dad didn't like it that much either. Anything else on Heat before we move on?
So glad we finally got to it. Seriously.
Way too much time for Sean State.
Yes.
Number 18 in 1988. Squeezed and pulled and hurt my neck in 1988.
Squeezed and pulled and hurt your neck in 1988.
You did, 4 movies?
Yeah, there are 4 movies. The one that I'm going to get out of the way is The Telephone, starring Whoopi Goldberg. It didn't even strike 100,000, but the reason I put it on the list is because it's Whoopi Goldberg, and she makes more appearances as we start to get later into the 80s, like Jumpin' Jack Flash, etc., all the way up to Ghost when she wins an Academy Award. And this is directed by Rip Torn, and I know nothing about it other than it seemed like a vehicle that should have worked but fizzled immediately at the theater. I'm sure neither of you have seen it.
Nope.
Okay, in 2 very interesting movies that I didn't get to see, but I might go back to. I'll start with Promised Land. And the reason why, Michael Hoffin's the director in this one, and I've seen things of his before. I think like Up Close and... No, that's John Avnet. I'm trying to think of something else that Michelle Pfeiffer's in that he directed. Point is, he's a very standard like Carpenter-type director that has made a ton of movies over the years. This one's got Jason Gedrick, Kiefer Sutherland, Meg Ryan in it as well. And it's a gritty drama that follows two high school acquaintances, and after they graduate, what do? Okay, so a gritty drama about after high school, what do you do? We watched a movie late in 1987 called Less Than Zero that follows people in different trajectories and whatnot. And then I couldn't help but think of the talent involved in this, Kiefer Sutherland, Meg Ryan, really becoming stars in 87, 88, 89, and how this only made like $300,000 at the theater. Clearly, they weren't big stars yet.
Well, yeah, they were. This was actually the very first film at the very first Sundance Film Festival.
Really?
Yeah. It's an interesting weekend because Braddock Missing in Action 3 is the last movie of the Cannon Group. That's the last Cannon movie. And this is the very first Sundance movie. There's a weird coalescence there. But Promised Land is actually a really great movie. It's much different than Less Than Zero. This is a movie set in a small town in Utah. A guy played by Jason Gedrick, he was an athlete. He loses his scholarship and returns home feeling like a failure. He takes a job as a cop. His girlfriend comes back, and she's kind of more successful than he is, and he's kind of dealing with that and trying to decide if he, where he fits in the world. Then you've got Kiefer Sutherland's character, who everybody thought was going to be very successful. They called him Senator in high school. They thought everybody he was going to be super successful, and he turned out to not. He was a drifter, and he comes back to town married to Meg Ryan, who's just absolutely out of her mind crazy. She's constantly pushing him around and getting him to do crazy stuff until finally she talks him into robbing a convenience store. And in the midst of that, Jason Gedrick's cop shows up, and that's the kind of the dramatic apex in the movie. It's really an interesting exploration of what it, where people trying to find their place in the world and as being relatively young men and not knowing where they're supposed to be.
I never saw Jason Gedrick as somebody that would be a star. I mean, like Iron Eagle, he was part of that franchise and whatnot, but he certainly had the face of somebody that could have been a star in the 80s. Another one that oddly, when your leads are Jodie Foster and Tim Robbins, I'm thinking it's probably something I really need to see. In 1988, Jodie Foster is going to go on to win Best Actress for The Accused. And this one is called Five Corners. It made just under $1 million, and the description of it about a psychotic young man returning to his old neighborhood after release from prison. Everything about this, the poster, the video cover, and the description of the film, and the fact that it wasn't successful tells me that it's kind of an odd career choice for Foster. And Tim Robbins, of course, had not done a whole lot up until this point. He really is going to take off when Bull Durham comes out later this year. But I did want to see it because I'm thinking Jodie Foster, Tim Robbins. It seems like a neat combo to see some of their earlier films, but didn't get to it.
Jodie Foster took off a lot of time to go to college.
Yeah.
That was kind of the gap in her career.
Speaking of Braddock Missing in Action 3.
Directed by Aaron Norris.
The youngest brother of Chuck Norris.
The very first film he directed.
I broke ranks on this one.
By the way, interesting note, Aaron Norris, the last thing he directed was back in 96, and now he's actually in production on a new movie.
I was hoping you would say this was the last thing you did, too.
It probably should have been.
The Norris family got really involved in the 80s. Chuck Norris's son was the headliner of a film about jingoism in Russia and getting caught over the border a couple of years ago that we discussed. Missing in Action 3. I broke ranks here and didn't watch the first two Missing in Actions.
Was that hard for you?
It was.
Did it affect you emotionally?
It did, but the film does a good job of kind of recapping what has happened to General James Braddock or Sergeant James Braddock.
I bet that was really hard to do.
Just like the Rocky movie. Just
I had tears in my eyes. I mean, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was like letting the gas tank end on $39.99. I didn't know what to do. No, really, this is a terrible, terrible film. Over and over and over, over-the-top performances by the gentleman that plays General Kwok, yelling out Braddock at every moment and torturing him with various things and putting Braddock's son that he just discovered that he had in the front of a shotgun, and it's gross. It's kind of disgusting in that way. There's scenes involving peril with children, but then you see Chuck Norris do a lot of unnatural kicks and a lot of unnatural blowing up of things
that never actually connect with anybody. Like, you can actually see, like, there's a little bit of space between his foot and their face, but they're
yes,
it's worse than the worst professional wrestling.
I have to compare it to Enter the Dragon in a way, because we saw some kicks in that movie with Bruce Lee that were so outlandish and over the top, but it really looked like he kicked their ass. And, I mean, going through like 3 chairs, and landing on the lawn. And that was over the top, but everyone was on board with that. Chuck Norris thinks he's making a very serious movie about the lost kids of Vietnam, like the bastard children of American intercourse with the natives. No. That's all I can say. There's brutality in this. Like, his wife gets shot right in the head in front of the kid and him, and it's a graphic like shot. It's right there in front of you. And then there's scenes of very thoughtful, patriotic music, like tears of freedom coming from your eyes. Now that one, I'm going to remember that lyric
Was
forever.
there a slow motion American flag at some point?
There might have been. I wasn't paying too close of attention. Like, I went off into the other room to get ice cream at some point, but I did finish it, and all I can say is I'm not interested in going back and rediscovering the first 2 Missing in Actions.
We want to point out that the other movies on Aaron Norris's extraordinary resume include Delta Force 2, Colombian Connection, Sidekicks.
That's a good one.
Top Dog.
Oh, yeah. I
one,
saw
too.
that in his
Good one, too.
And the epic known as Forest Warrior.
2 out of 4 ain't bad. Funny thing is, my dad didn't really like Heat, but he liked the Missing in Action movies. Now, he never watched them like side to side, so I don't know. But I think he just didn't like that I always watched it over and over again. And he hated Over the Top Pacino.
Missing in Action, though, was the most successful film by leaps and bounds this weekend, making $6.6 million or whatnot. And for Canon Films, though, I started to think of the production values on this film with all of the explosions that they had and the big planes involved and the landscapes involved. And I'm thinking to myself, well, no wonder they went belly up after this movie, because I don't know how much they spent. I didn't look at the budget, but I'm thinking like, this is a $25 million movie, only making $6.6 million.
Well, they were underwater after Superman.
And that $6 million was going backwards to pay off previous.
Of course. My takeaway from this one is going to be Chuck Norris stabbing a soldier with a bayonet that he's spiked out from his Gatling grenade launcher thing, then shooting the soldier with the grenade, which shoves him out of the front door of this hut onto the lawn, and then the soldier explodes because he's got a grenade inside of him. If you want any scene to encapsulate Canon Films any better, please let me know.
Yeah, it would be better for Michael Dudikoff, but yeah.
Let's hook those 2 guys up. Let's get one of those made. Where's Michael Dudikoff in the Expendables movies, They got Chuck.
Right, because people know who Chuck Norris is.
We're never going to have Michael Dudikoff on the show. We've ripped him too much.
He never
His
answered.
website's pretty impressive.
He seems like a nice guy. At least he's not on late night infomercials selling exercise equipment.
I bet he wishes he was.
True.
You know how much money Chuck has made off of those?
You know how healthy he is because of those? All right. Next week.
We have no idea.
It's like I'm done trying to predict what comes out because every time we guess, they were wrong. But according to Box Office Mojo, Maze Runner is coming to 3,800 screens.
That one will be here. I guarantee that.
Hostiles, again, says 3,000 screens. I don't know if it got bumped altogether or what the deal is. Hopefully that comes. If it does, our top 5 is Native American themed movies, which we already have on our Facebook page. So just go there and add on to it. I do not have it in the group. Cousin Jeff. So if you want to find it, it's on our Facebook page. I think Jason from New Mexico has already answered with one movie. And then I guess a Phantom Thread comes out. Boogie Nights will be our classic. If it doesn't, and Hostiles comes out, then Little Big Man will be our classic. And if neither one of those come out, we're just going to probably make up a classic on the spot, like The Shining or what was the Money Pit? One of those two.
The Money Pit? We're going to revisit The Money Pit?
Or The Shining.
Because Bob's moving to a new house.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a maze at the end of The Shining, so I don't know. I mean, hopefully we don't have to do that. We can either get Little Big Man or the other one, Boogie Nights, especially since I've already seen Boogie Nights, and it would be easy to not have to watch a movie this week. Before I let you guys go, I want to make sure I thank our Patreon supporters. If you want to be a supporter, head over to ihatecritics.net/Patreon. And we'll start with our key grip, Charlie Messing. See, Josh was doing it over the top. Does that count, Charlie?
Over the top? Like, raw. Over the top? Or drop the lid? Yeah.
Such a good movie.
We're not on video yet. Thank God.
I need to get my son to watch that movie because he's always wanting to arm wrestle, and it's like, it's not fair.
Oh, my son loved it. He would probably go apeshit over it.
Just get to the end, fast forward just the arm wrestling scenes, and you're fine.
Cue Kenny Loggins song.
I kind of want to show him the Larry the Cable Guy arm wrestling guy at Nebraska game, but I can't even muster up the courage to watch it myself, so I don't really. If you don't know what I'm talking about, he breaks his arm in half.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there's a video of him arm wrestling a fan, and he won. But the guy's arm snapped.
Ow!
And there's a YouTube video of it, and Larry the Cable Guy has disappeared. We haven't seen him. Well, Cars 3, I guess. Our character actors, Josh and Christina.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects supervisor, Corey.
May the Force be with you.
Our associate producer, Jason from New Mexico.
This is crazy. You want me to hit you?
That's right.
What, like in the face?
Surprise me.
And our movie stars, Dave Seavers and Uncle Jeff.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Again, ihatecritics.net/Patreon. And also, if you want to appear on the show in some way or another, go to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast and rate and review the show. We will read your review on the air. And then I did post it on our Facebook page. Uncle Jeff he did his 2017 interview. That his link for, I think it's The Holy Mess is his website. That's up. He had Mother as one of the top. I was really happy to see that. It's big stick lower than I wanted, but it's fair enough.
Tuesday, I'll have my new column up ranking the movies of 2018. I'll have Heat and Forever My Girl and 12 Strong will all be part of that list. Den of Thieves. All those will join the list. So 13 movies so far this year.
Is it okay?
I added one more. There's a documentary called Act and Punishment as well, which I saw this week.
I was thinking of not actually writing anything about them, but just kind of ranking them, making a little page on the top of our page of mine. You guys are more than welcome to do. I know you're doing it on your site, but if you want to do it, Josh, you're more than welcome to. Just let me know. I don't have the time to write a review on any of them, though.
If you're asking me weekly rankings, that is quite intriguing.
Just kind of
I'm putting them all, everything
I see for 18.
including the classics, all the new movies.
It's basically like hitting on me, asking me to do rankings. I mean, I dig that very much.
And then that way I don't have to think about it at the end of the year.
Listen how turned on he is.
Hey, baby. Give me some rankings. And the show has reached a new low. I'm sorry.
That is our show, though. So stick around after the credits for a little flick chart. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have. We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever leave each other. We're the best three friends that anybody can have. I mean, the three best friends that anybody can have. The friends, the three best friends that anybody can have.
I think this is going to be more fun for Josh and I than Sean, but Heat versus Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Heat.
Oh.
Heat.
Beverly Hills
Landslide.
top 2 is okay, but
Heat versus Inception.
Inception.
Heat.
I've seen Inception, but I saw it in a crappy scenario, but as of now, it's Heat. Maybe if I revisit it, it'll change. Let's see what comes next. Heat or The Fugitive?
Fugitive.
Heat for me.
The Fugitive for me, as my list would state. I'm locked into it.
I love how he never breaks character on his list. Heat or
we can't remember our list. We probably write over.
We've done both of us have gone.
It's not a blessing, damn it. It's a curse.
Heat or The Dark Knight?
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Probably Heat for me, but it's close.
That's a hell of a matchup right there. That's perfect.
Heat or Lethal Weapon?
I'll actually take Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon's in my top 50. Heat is not.
That's a tough one, too. I think I'd go Heat, only probably because of recency bias. But Heat or Little Miss Sunshine?
Little Miss Sunshine.
Heat.
I will go Little Miss Sunshine on that one.
Heat's getting its ass kicked.
Yeah, it's all because of Josh.
I'm here for you, Heat.
Are you? You voted against it multiple times.
More than I have.
Shit.
Heat or Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'm going Heat.
Oh, shit. Ferris Bueller.
I mean,
I'm loving this.
Here's an easy one.
Totally
Usually
went
you
my
guys
way.
take me down. Now I'm my own worst enemy. Oh, it's
Taking
like
me
life.
down since happening.
Bob thought this was totally going to be against me. This is great.
What a tangled web we weave.
Heat or Hulk 2003?
Heat.
Heat.
He's actually going backwards on our ranking. Heat or Ocean's 12?
Heat.
Heat.
That was an easy one. It was 118, now it's 149. It's between, Ferris Bueller and Ghostbusters 2 is higher than Heat.
I've failed you, Michael Mann.
In fairness, Star Wars is only 145.
Well, maybe because you haven't talked about it enough, Bob. Are you talking about A New Hope?
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope?
We can do that one real quick if you want. We got time.
Oh, bring it.
Are you sure you want to do that?
I'm overly confident. Naively confident.
They do not call A New Hope on here.
Well, I'll write a strongly worded letter.
I've never in my life referred to it as A New Hope, so.
Star Wars or Beverly Hills Cop 2?
Star Wars.
Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
I would go Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Jesus.
Star Wars or Inception?
Inception. Just kidding. I just wanted to see the look on Josh's face.
The jaw dropped.
No, it's Star Wars. It's Star Wars.
The serotonin levels fell. Star Wars.
I would have probably gone with you on that one. Star Wars or The Fugitive?
Star Wars.
Episode 4, A New Hope. It's in my top 10.
With The Fugitive. But I'm actually picking Star Wars for you.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars or A Beautiful Mind?
Star Wars.
A New Hope.
Beautiful Mind. I'm not just being a dick. I actually like
Of course.
Star Wars or Reservoir Dogs?
Star Wars.
A New Hope.
Reservoir Dogs. Star Wars or Toy Story 3?
Star Wars.
A New Hope.
Toy Story 3. Star Wars or Kill Bill?
Kill Bill.
A New Hope.
I'm sorry, Volume 2.
Still Kill Bill.
All right, finally Star Wars loses. Let's see what's next. It is in our top 10 at the moment, although I feel like it's going to go down a little bit. Now, let's see here. We're only 65% of the way through. Come on. Of course, internet has to be fun. Donnie Darko or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Ooh, A New Hope.
Donnie Darko. It is the number 6 movie of all of our movies, behind Good Will Hunting, Chasing Amy, number 2, Dogma, number 3, North by Northwest, Kill Bill, then Star Wars.
I believe number 6 is where it is on my list as well.
I'm sure it'll stay there forever. Wall-E, Lion King, Psycho, Three Kings. Raiders of the Lost Ark is 13.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is higher than A New Hope for me.
Do you have to do that one now? Be careful what you wish for. Eventually, you're going to start going backwards.
Right.
Go ahead and hit the randomizer.
Well, we've not discussed Indiana Jones at length. We haven't talked about Raiders as a classic or anything like that. It came before our 30-year retrospective.
I thought we did.
Unfortunately, we have not.
We've mentioned it. I don't know if we've ever made it like a... I don't think we've ever done a segment around it, but it's been talked about.
Yeah, definitely on a lot of top
I think when we did our March Madness stuff is when we talked about it. The Dark Knight Rises are balls of fury.
Dark Knight Rises.
Right, agreed.
Your hesitation is understandable, is what they said after Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, or The Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense.
American Pie 2 or History of Violence?
History of Violence.
History of Violence.
Fargo or Scarface?
Fargo. Unquestionably.
That's my least favorite Al Pacino movie.
You haven't seen
that he's seen.
That I've seen.
I could go on for a while on bad Al Pacino movies. So.
The Mask or Sin City?
Sin City.
Sin City.
Dead Air. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or Beauty and the Beast?
Eternal Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine.
Still haven't seen that one.
Over every Beauty and the Beast.
You've got to see
which
Eternal
one.
Sunshine.
That was on the list of potential classics. This could be fun. E.T. or Fight Club?
Fight Club.
E.T. is in my top 20, so let it lose now.
I like E.T., but Fight Club I just really like a lot. Desperately Seeking Susan or Knocked Up?
Knocked Up.
Desperately Seeking Susan by a mile.
Knocked Up by 4 or 5 miles.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Did you watch Desperately Seeking Susan when we talked about it in 80?
I watched it when I was younger.
I wrote a full-length review on that and how it was culturally important, and I don't know anything. But
that's I would say that there's no way it could top Knocked Up for me just because of how much I like that movie and the people involved with it.
Just saying 4 or 5 miles, you know.
Well, it's definitely not a mile.
It's taking the Chuck Norris bayonet and just turning it a little bit in my back.
You said a mile.
That's not that long. Even I can run a mile.
I used to be able to run 5. I have bad knees. The Negotiator or I Am Legend? The Negotiator's from 98.
Right.
Sam Jackson, Kevin Spacey.
I've seen The Negotiator a lot. Like a lot. I don't know why, but I've seen it a lot.
It's his Heat. Or I Am Legend 2007.
I Am Legend, I guess.
Negotiator.
I don't think I've seen it. Oh, no, I have. I will go with I Am Legend because I don't remember The Negotiator.
Negotiator is just really easy to watch, but it's not a very good movie.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Or The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Say what? Which one?
The third Lord of the Rings movie or Robin Hood.
Oh.
With Kevin Costner. Technically, I probably shouldn't get the vote since I never finished Lord of the Rings. So I can sit out, but I would say I did finish Robin Hood, so if that means anything.
I will cut your heart out with a spoon.
That's amazing.
If I pick Robin Hood, that would happen to you, right? That would be a little.
Well, we'd have to just refresh, I think.
Comedy moments with Kevin Costner trying to say Robin of Locksley and constantly changing the way that he says it.
But it's fun.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Agreed.
And Yeah, that's a good one to go out on.
All right.
Pocahontas, Austin Powers, and
Yeah.
all right, bye.